just now you have seen in the class, I've shown you a clip of the Martha and Mary demonstration. So I would love to walk you through how I come up with the rewriting the story. So I'm going to walk you through step by step some of the research that I've done in the process, some of the word study. This might be something that you want to do in the future if this is if you're preparing for a sermon or preparing for a women conference or a retreat or a VBS, something that is more formal. Okay, so if this is something that that is more formal, that you wanted to tell the story with your interpretations, observation, interpretation, also applications as well. All right, so this is the passage that I have shared with you earlier in the other videos, the story of Martha. So this is a passage from Luke 10:38 to 42. So now I read it to you. As they were traveling along, he entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister called Mary, who was seated at the Lord's feet, listening to his word. But Martha was distracted with all her preparations, and she came up to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister have left me to do all the serving alone? Then tell her to help me. But the Lord answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you worried and bothered about so many things, but only one thing is necessary. For Mary has chosen the good part, which shall not be taken away from her. So just now I have, if you watch the other videos, the demonstrations of Martha and Mary. So here are some of the steps that I have taken. Basically, I've asked myself a bunch of questions. I have many questions regarding this story as I prepare the story. That also prompted me to do different research on the questions that I've asked. First of all, what is Martha's personality? Now, it's interesting. We kind of know Martha's personality if we look at different passages with this story again. Okay, so she's a highly efficient person. She speaks her mind. She's bold. She's talented. She's bossy and busy and task-oriented and driven. So I came up with this personality based on a couple other passages that this story being also portrayed. Being told. So I kind of from there I kind of come to conclusion Martha is someone that is like that. And what were the roles and the responsibilities of the Jewish woman at the time? For me, this is such an important question because that will help me understand what's in her world. Why she was so stressed. Of course, she's stressed with the guests that are coming. But also, what is her role at the time? So I went back to study a little bit. So is being a woman at her time is very important to take care of the household, and being hospitable is something that is is very important to the women at the time. And the Jewish women have to be very diligently caring for the homes, family, and any domestic chores. So this is really the main responsibility to take care of any guests in the home. So so you can see, it's not just something that is so much to do, but also her, saving face, right? Is her reputations online, what is expected of the Jewish woman at the time. What was the timing like? Did she know Jesus was coming? How far it is from Jerusalem to Bethany? Okay, so this is a question I want to ask myself. Did she really know Jesus was coming? Because that also make a huge difference, right? If she knows he was coming, she can have some kind of preparation in advance. So let's see. So I researched a little bit from Jerusalem to Bethany, about 2 miles away. So that kind of determine, my writing. It might catch her by surprise. Jesus just show up. And as I look at the previous chapters, they talk about Jesus actually has 72 disciples. 72 disciples were with him doing ministries in different places. So I was wondering if these 72 people actually came along to follow Jesus. If that is the case, that definitely will add to her anxiety to prepare this meal. So another question that I had is the word said she was distracted by her preparations. Why was Martha so occupied with the preparations? What was going through in her mind, and what did she worry about? So maybe Martha was very anxious about making a big fancy meal for Jesus, just to impress him and all the guests, or she could have prepared a simple meal maybe instead, or it is just, or maybe it's just busy to prepare a meal. So I want to ask this question because I want to understand what's her motives, right, of preparing this meal. What was her intention of preparing this meal? Because that would totally affect my interpretations of her personality and the story as well. So how did they prepare food at the time? What were the process like preparing them? What kind of food would they serve and eat, right? So as I done the research, I was really surprised of the process of making. They're not living in a modern day world like us, right? We can just order Grab or order, Food Panda for food. The process of making is quite lengthy. So some of the food that they ate at the time, they olive bread, fried cake with honey and oak, roasted meat, cheese, goat milk. It was a long process of making. It's not so quick and easy, right? That's why they have to grind the grain and make the bread and make the goat, make the cheese and milk the cow, and even killing the animals was a huge task, right? They usually had to kill the animals according to kosher law. Okay, so the process was quite lengthy, as you can imagine. Martha would definitely would be very overwhelmed. Okay, so another question that I have is, could Martha serve a simpler meal so she doesn't have to be caught up in the kitchen? I want to ask that question because it kind of determined also another way for me to understand what was her intention when she was upset about Jesus, when she was so occupied with other things. So in the story, I intentionally put in a line there where she had 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. In chapter 9, the miracle of 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread was being mentioned. So it's interesting that did she remember? Did she forget? Did she forget Jesus is a God of miracle? How about us sometimes, right? We can experience God's provisions in our life, but when the challenges come, we totally forget, right, who God is. So in some way, I feel like we're so much like Martha, right? Maybe she remembered, she forgot. Jesus is a God of miracle. That He is the God that can make things happen as well. So she has to worry and prepare. I decided that because Jesus' responses was worried, bothered by so many things. And the NIV version talking about you're worried and upset about many things, but only few things are needed, or indeed only one is important. So from then on, I kind of do a little text comparison. I remember one point I shared with you correlation and the correlations. We look up different translations to compare and to understand that passage more in depth. So what I've done is I pull up 3 different translations of the same line. I want to understand more, what did Jesus mean by when he said, you worry about too many things. So it's interestingly, in NLT, it says here, you worried, upset over all these details. There's only one thing worth being concerned about. Okay, so in Net Bible, New English Translation, it says here, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed. Okay, and then another translation, which is the Message translation, you're fussing far too much and getting yourself worked up over for nothing. One thing only essential, and Mary has chosen it, and it is the main course and won't be taken away from her. It's interesting that the verse here didn't say Jesus was scolding Mary, oh, you shouldn't do anything, you should just drop everything, just come and sit next to me. Instead, it's interestingly how the word keep coming up is you worry, upset about all these details. You worry about, upset so many things. You're getting yourself worked far too much, for nothing. So it's interestingly, maybe Martha really didn't have to prepare so much or worry about so much. Maybe she could have just prepared a simpler meal for Jesus. And her priority should, first be coming to just prepare a simple meal and just come right back to talk to Jesus. Now, I don't know about you. Sometimes when we're in ministry, right, or even just work or at home in general, when we try to do too much, we just feel frustrated, right? We just feel frustrated. How come other people are not helping me? But if we look back, maybe some of the things that we may not have to do everything all at once or at one point. Maybe there's something that maybe we overdo it. So I find it's verse especially speak to me personally. So because I sometimes feel maybe I'm doing too much that got myself very frustrated, more than I need to. Okay. So another question that I want to ask is, could Martha serve a simpler meal? That leads to my question. And so she doesn't have to be caught up in the kitchen. So she has made herself too busy, more than she needs. She could have served a simpler meal. Instead, she hoped to do a big meal. Maybe she wanted to do a big meal to impress Jesus. So maybe her priority was wrong. She forgot Jesus is the God of miracles. As I mentioned, the 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. She trying to use her own ability to serve and solve the problem. She lost her focus and joy. Sometimes maybe we're just like that. We try to do too much, out of our own ability, to serve God, that we lost our joy. Well, sometimes maybe we're trying to be too busy than what we need to. Okay, we said yes to many things and we fail to see the only one thing that is important. So when we're so busy, overwhelmed by work or ministry or trying to do this big thing for God, we kind of lost our focus as well. We fail to trust God will provide for us. We'll take care of our ministry, take care of our work, or take care of other things by first, putting our first priority right before God, so that we need to, our first priority is always right, is to first to be at Jesus' feet, which is the only one that is needed. Another question I have is why Martha was so mad at Mary. What was the motive behind her telling Jesus about her sister, Mary? Okay. She probably felt unfair. She was the only one alone, working alone without any help, recognitions, right? So sometimes maybe in the same way we complain about serving alone, we compare ourselves with others or our own abilities. We kind of wanted to seek praises or recognitions with others. What does it mean when Mary's sitting by Jesus' feet? So the role of women at the time, then, was mainly domestic. Okay, so only men would usually sit close to Jesus and listen to his teaching. And Mary is often, chosen, the best, the priority is being right? She doesn't really care about the social norm. All she cared about is seeking after God, being at Jesus' feet. She was not worried about breaking the social norm at all. She was passionate. To hear and seek God over busyness or social norm. And she knows her priority. Now, how about you and me? Sometimes we can be caught up by so many things. And do we have the same heart of Mary, that our heart is passionate to seek after God in the midst of the busyness of life and ministry? So I have this question here. Do we have the same heart today? So desperate to hear God, that is so contrary to the norm, contrary to fight against all the busyness of life. What is our priority? Do we value work more than spending intimate time with God? And God wants an attentive heart instead of not a distracted heart. Last few questions. What did Jesus mean when he said he was worried and bothered by so many things? Notice that Jesus did not condemn her work. Instead, he said, Martha worried and bothered by so many things. So the word study, I did a word study on worry. What does it mean? Which means we meditate, something that we keep meditating on. So we ask ourselves, what do we meditating on? What do we meditate on these days? Could be study, ministry, maybe a challenge or worry. So sometimes all these things has become a God, okay? But do we trust God that he will help our work or challenges or the struggles that we face as we willingly to set our first priority in God? Do we trust that God will take care of those things, or are we just being distracted worried, and distracted like Martha by our work, our study, ministries, or other challenges, our children, many other things in our lives. Do I need a prop? So this is one question that I need to ask myself, and positions. Where am I going to stand? Where is Mary? Where is Jesus? Where is Martha? When I actually, if you act it out, you have to act it out in a formal setting. Do you need props? So in this case, I have decided what kind of props I need. So I had a scarf on my head. After telling the story, I removed the scarf to preach. Where's the chair? I need some plates, to show that I'm in the kitchen, a tablecloth. So that was something that I have to consider. And where's Jesus? Where's Mary? Where is Martha when I'm telling the story? So you have to practice it at least 10 times. I encourage you, if this is something that you want to do in a formal setting, to preach or to share in a women's retreat or conferences, that you want to practice where you stand with your props. But I guarantee you this is a very fruitful process. Okay, so here, last two questions. What did Jesus mean when he said you are worried about too many things? I've done this. Okay, so here are a few final tips I would love to share with you as you tell the story or using this method to teach. This is very important. A few things I think, one thing I've learned as I prepare this story, I really pray so hard. God, show me. I pray and ask God to reveal to me, who is Martha? Who is this woman? What was she thinking the whole process? I tell you, I really meditating the story night and day, asking God, help me, show me, help me to be in Martha's world. What was she thinking? What is the truth in this story? And I hope that this would be something that you also meditate on. If you use this method to teach, what is the main characters that, what are they going through? What are some of the emotions, some of the challenges, some of the emotions that going through the mind? What are some of the personalities? What's the intentions of these people? Ask God to reveal to you. As I show you earlier on, you can also compare it with other passages, right? With the same story. See, you can glean some insight of the characters that you're studying. Imagine, meditate the story day and night, as I shared. Rewrite the story in your own words. Of course, this is an optional exercise. As I walked you through just now, this is an optional alternatives for you if you want to do that. The details that you added must be based on historical background, word study, commentary, reviews, comparing different texts, and moderations of relevant humors. Okay, so when you add colors into the text to this story, make sure you've done your research. It's not something that I dream of or you dream of. Okay, so make sure what you add is based on your research, commentaries, review, comparing different texts, but you can use that to add color to the story. Use simple words and short sentences. That really helps people to understand. So avoid using long sentences, almost like you're reading off your script, or you're kind of reading off your book or something. So rehearse the story at least 10 times. Okay. The best way is you can film yourself, or you can practice it in front of the mirror. Okay. Facial expressions, your emotions, your positions, and the props. Take a video of yourself and try to look at it and improve it. Some of the key verses, sometimes you might so nervous, so you can have those cue cards, write down the key verses, maybe on your plate or something, on one of your props, so you still be able to read it or kind of memorize it in some way, but if you lost, you can kind of look at it, so that the key verse is very important. Key verses are very important. Sometimes you might go to places where you are the only Bible, okay? So you want to make sure the key verses you can, if it possible, use word for words. Last but not least, sometimes it takes longer to practice and prepare, but it's all worth it, because stories really preach to the hearts. as I've used it a number of occasions, and I really see the power of really speaking to people's heart. I sometimes see people cry during the sermon because of some of the story being told was very moving, and people can really engage and get into the world of the character. I hope that this would be something that you would consider using in the future. This is such a powerful tool for you to practice, and you can just bring it with you wherever you go. And I personally use it with my children as well. I sometimes when I study in my devotions, I study some of the stories that I can dialogue with my children as we are walking or when we're sitting down, that we can discuss some of the story, Bible story, and ask them, what do you like about this story? What did you learn about God? What did you learn about people from this story? Last but not least, I would encourage you. This is something that I hope you can consider doing. Actually, when I attended the workshop, the instructor Bertie actually demonstrated. She picked a story from the Bible and weave it into her own personal testimony. So basically, she has used the Bible story of the women who was Mary was sitting by Jesus' feet, using her hair to wipe his feet and the perfume, and she was a woman that is not being not very noble, and the Pharisee really discussed about her presence. So basically the instructor demonstrated, she shared the story, she told the story, and then she shared her personal testimony afterwards as a way to it's a powerful way to evangelize as well. So she shared how she can relate it to Mary, that she was someone that being outcast in the school, that she's someone that is not pretty, people don't really like her, and she kind of shared her heart, how this story really spoke to her. So this is another way that you can consider in the future, pick a story and then kind of weave in your personal testimony in that. All right. And so you can, when you do this, this is something that you can consider is find your story. Which Bible story can you most relate it to your testimony? What is the good news of this story to the people you want to share? Use a short Bible story to bridge to your own testimony. So I hope that this video will be helpful to you, especially as you prepare, if you want to rewrite your story. And this whole workshop of orality is a great training for even Sunday school teachers, for people or teaching Sunday school, teaching children. It's a great way and powerful way to teach in various settings. So feel free to share these videos with others, especially, or you can use it for your church training, for training up Sunday school teachers or women's teachers if they want to use this way to teach. So I hope this session has been helpful to you. And personally, I love this way to teach, even though it takes so much time, but I see such a fruitful tool to use. So I hope that, and I pray that for all of you, that you also fall in love using this method to teach as well. So I'll see you next class. Bye for now. So I hope that this class has been helpful to you, and especially feel free to use this as a way to do training in your church or Sunday school teacher or children ministry, because I find this method is really powerful, that really can speak to people's heart. So feel free to use it to train up the leaders at your church as well. So I hope to see you next time. Bye.